When the 4-hour work week was released, it raised a lot of eyebrows, mainly because it goes against our common belief that in order to be successful, you needed to work really hard, put in the extra effort, or clock in extra hours, right? But in fact, Tim Ferriss discusses an alternative route wherein it's not about working hard, but working smart and you being able to design and live a lifestyle you truly want, freeing you from the 9 to 5 job and basically allowing you to live anywhere. So as usual, I have my 5 key takeaways, starting with key takeaway number 1, the new rich versus the deferrers. So one key concept introduced by Tim was the new rich. These are the guys who have the freedom of time. They are able to choose how they want to spend their time and who do they spend their time with, right? They were able to design a lifestyle that they truly want, and by implementing certain tactics, strategies, freeing them to the day-to-day obligations, which we'll discuss later. The second group are the deferrers. These are the guys who tend to be miserable, who tend to be so negative. But despite their current situation, they tend to still opt to choose to remain the same, mainly because they always defer changes, the fear of change, and fear of going out of their comfort zone. So that's the first key takeaway. The second key takeaway is one tactic which is called the deal formula. Starting with the first letter D, define. In order to design a lifestyle you truly want, it's very important for you to have a clear vision, have a clear understanding of what it really means for the lifestyle you want. For example, if you want a lifestyle, you first need to itemize the costs that you are to incur on a monthly basis. If you want, for example, to go traveling every month, eat dinner out every month, so you itemize that on a monthly basis and identify the total cost. Once you have the total cost, you need to compute, your total monthly or your target monthly income. From there, you have a clear monthly income in mind, and you work back on how to actually achieve that target monthly income on a passively basically. The second one is eliminate. So the most successful people are able to identify or separate important tasks versus unimportant tasks which can be eliminated. One example there, for example, is um, commute or travel time, right? Because of the pandemic, it opened up a lot of our eyes that in order to be productive, we can actually still have the same output in a virtual conference. So maybe it's something to look into if you can eliminate travel time from your day-to-day calls or meetings, right? So identifying tasks that you can eliminate. The third one is automate. So assuming that you are not able to eliminate certain tasks, is there a way to automate? One example there is if you have a business or if you're working in a corporation, there are a lot of tasks that are similar, such as being asked the same question or getting the same emails. One way of automating that is perhaps coming up with a templated FAQs rather than having to curate information every time it is asked. There you have a data bank or an FAQ that you could simply forward. This is one way of shortening or automating certain tasks, right? And the last one is liberate. So think of ways on how to liberate you from your current situation. So for example, um, if you're working a 9 to 5 job, right? Is there a way to liberate you from having to go to the office, right? Assuming that you can still achieve the same output, whether in the office or at home, right? But in fact, the pandemic has showed us that employees or professionals are actually more productive at home because it cuts the commute time. They still have energy to actually work, and they come in fresh when working in their respective jobs. The third key nugget of wisdom is the lack of time. Lack of time is lack of priorities, right? So haven't we heard that a lot of people say that I don't have the time, I'm too busy. Well, in fact, it's not about having not enough time, because in this world, each and every one of us is given the same 24 hours a day. It's about identifying the ability to segregate what is of higher value, right? Best way to qualify that is to ask yourself, if this is the only thing I can do today, what would make me feel most accomplished, right? So ideally, you have two primary goals a day, and imagine if you have this kind of mindset and implement it on a year, 365 days. There is no doubt that you will actually achieve more than simply going by the flow and being randomized by a lot of tasks, right? So one key concept is the Parkinson's law, which basically states that work expands to uh, the time allocated. So haven't we been in a situation wherein we were given 2 weeks to submit on a certain deadline, and we waited to the very last day to actually start working, right? So try to put short deadlines, or impose to yourself short deadlines, so that you're forced to actually finish the task at hand. The fourth key takeaway is take a low information diet. So the most productive people, according to Tim, are those who are able to take a low information diet. Again, it's not about consuming as much information, but consume relevant information. So sometimes it drains your energy, your brain power, if you try to understand each and every information that you read or that you are fed to. But again, it's about being able to identify and segregate important information to unimportant information, right? And focusing on the information that are critical to you. So it frees you up from the brain power of having to overthink things or overconsume information. And the last key takeaway is effectively manage or eliminate wasters. So one way to free up time is eliminate repetitive tasks. For example, doing the laundry, right? Is there a way to eliminate this, or is there a way to delegate this? So rather than doing laundries yourself, maybe there's a better way of doing it, like outsourcing it, having it picked up every week. The second way to eliminate or manage time wasters is to identify, do you have decision making bottlenecks. So if you're a business owner, for example, sometimes you get overly overwhelmed by the amount of questions you get from your staff. So mainly because you do not empower them to make certain decisions. So one way of relieving you from that decision bottleneck, is perhaps empowering them to make decisions that for example, cost less than 1,000 pesos, or 10 US dollars, for example, or 20 US dollars rather. So this empowerment to your staff, to your employees, can free you up time to focus on more high value activities. And the last one is phone calls. So I'm very guilty of this as well. When we receive a phone call, we immediately answer, and the time it takes for us to get back to what we're doing takes a longer time. So better than rather than answering phone calls immediately, perhaps it's better to schedule them, to identify again whether or not it's actually there's a need for a phone call, or we can simply answer that via email, right? So again, those are the five key takeaways I got from the 4 hour work week. Again, it's about working smart, being able to eliminate certain tasks, automate certain tasks, and defining the lifestyle that you want and working backwards. So hopefully you learned a lot. I like this book. Once again, if you like my summary, I make one summary every Sunday evening. Go to youtube.com, search Paulo Balinas, and that's it. See you again next week. Thank you.